Hi everyone, it's Jessica and this is VEDA Day 11. I want to talk today about FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and it's something that I've been thinking about a lot in the past week or so. It was actually the BFC 530 topic this morning because I set it as the topic, because I was curious to hear what our community would say about it and what educational related FOMOs might be out there in our community and how people handle that and the like. I don't actually remember exactly what spurred this thought. I have been out of the country for a couple of weeks. I was traveling in Europe, as many of you know, because I've been recording a lot of my VEDA videos from Europe. But, I realized that I don't really have the same kind of social media FOMO that I see fairly prevalently around the communities and the circles that I'm in. I see a lot of people on Twitter who seem to, feel almost this obligation to checking Twitter and being in all these different chats, and even their weekly chats. Like, I have to do this chat, and they'll pass up other things, or they schedule their life really around making sure that they can attend that chat. And I think for a time I did do that more, and I don't know, I guess maybe it just takes a different priority in my life now, or there's probably a lot of things that have changed that for me, but I just find it curious that, I love Twitter and I love social media and I check it every day, and maybe it's partly because it's part of my habits now. It's so habitual for me to be on Twitter and to check Twitter, and it's part of my everyday. I mean, I very rarely go a day without being on Twitter for some amount of time, and it's usually not for very long, and I usually check it a few times a day. Maybe it's partly because I'm managing things on there. It's not so much like attending chats or scrolling through different hashtags, but I do that as well. I like to check in on certain people. I have some lists that I like to keep up on, and some different hashtags, or when there's an event going on or conference, something that I want to follow, I usually will follow that hashtag pretty closely while that's going on. So it's not that I don't use those things, but if I'm not able to because there's something else that's taking priority in my life, it doesn't really seem to bother me the way that other things bother me. And so I got thinking about why that might be and what the differences might be. I feel like I have sort of a work FOMO, and this is sort of how I got on this track of thinking last week, is that I realized that I love being able to travel, and I feel really, really thankful that I'm able to take time away from work, and all of my years of teaching in my district mean that I have a lot of time saved up in my leave bank. And so I've been really enjoying being able to have a job now these past few years where I can actually take those days and not feel like I can't step away from my work for a little while and take that time to refocus, or to just spend time doing other things that I love. I'm really, really thankful that I get to do that. But I also have this sort of work FOMO, and I don't know exactly where it comes from or what brings it on necessarily, but I've been trying to figure out, what is it that I'm worried about missing? And I think part of it is that I am a person who thrives on having context. I really need context of situations and the why and the purpose of what we're doing, and background and the history of things. And so when I miss out on chunks of those conversations, I think that it's hard for me to jump back in. I think part of it too is that the work changes so quickly. I've noticed that every time I take a vacation, if other people are still working, if it's not a spring break where everyone is sort of pushing the pause button at the same time, but I'm pushing the pause button and stepping away and other people carry on, things change so rapidly that in the course of even just a few days or a week, the conversations that happen and the things that go on can be pretty big things. And on the one hand, I love that we're making decisions and we're doing these things, but I think part of the issue that I have with it, maybe issue is not the right word, but I think that it bothers me a little bit because I wonder sometimes whether we should be always, does that mean that we're working so last minute all the time that someone could step away for a week and when they come back things could be that different, or that many things could have not changed necessarily, it's not always change, but those kinds of things can have manifested over the course of just a few days. And I've also noticed that one conversation between certain people or among a small group of people can change something really quickly. And sometimes maybe it's partly too because I'm a processor and I like to think about things, and after having a conversation I like to think about it and sort of mull things over in my head and have other conversations and then come back to it and then make decisions. I know not everything can be like that, but sometimes I worry when we're making big decisions so quickly all the time, are we really making the best decisions, and are we really putting the most effort and focus and going in the right direction as we would if we had taken time to think it through and come back to that a week later or something like that. So I don't know, it just seems like we stagnate on all kinds of things for a really long time, and then all of a sudden it's go, decision, and all these things happened, and I guess I just don't notice it as much when I'm living it day to day. It just becomes my normal, but when I take these breaks away from work, I notice it more. So I've been thinking about that, and I've been thinking about how because I like to have that context and I really thrive in knowing a lot of the things that are going on, sometimes I feel like because I wasn't in a room that I'm now not part of something. And I think that's where my true FOMO comes from. It's like, well, if you're not in the room to have the conversation at that one time, then your name didn't get assigned next to something, or you didn't get to advocate for something that you think is important, or you didn't get to step up and raise your hand and say, I'm going to take this and run with it. And so I feel like sometimes I come back and like all these things have just been sort of divvied up and assigned to people, and people are sort of running with things, and I'm like, oh, well, I would have liked to be involved in that, or, you know, I have thoughts about that. And I think, you know, that's some of that's natural. It's bound to happen, and I totally get it. You know, I'm not asking people to not work when I'm not there, or to not keep moving forward. Like, that would be the last thing that I would want. But, you know, I just like think about it sometimes. Like, should things be happening to where if you can't be in a room in that physical space at that exact time, like with all of the ways that we can be asynchronous now with our work, I would just think that sometimes we wouldn't require so much synchronous work to need to happen in order for the right people to be involved with the right things, I guess. So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's kind of what's rattling around in my head. I also think that part of it, someone, David on Twitter actually, because I posted this question, I was like, you know, just I'm pondering FOMO and you know, social media FOMO and those kinds of things. And so he and I had a little conversation, which is another reason why I love Twitter, that I can just sort of like randomly post something that I'm thinking about, and I can get a response and kind of have a little dialogue that helps get my thinking going in a different direction, or like further my thinking on the same path. And he said, you know, maybe it comes from like this obligation, or maybe some guilt, or, you know, those kinds of things. And I think my work FOMO definitely has some guilt wrapped up in it. Like when I'm not there, I do feel guilty. Like I feel so badly when I'm not there. Like I'm not pulling my weight, or I'm not contributing the way that I should be. And I don't like when other people have to take things over for me because I'm not there. Like that always, you know, causes me to feel really badly. Like, oh, people shouldn't have to do extra work because of me and my vacation. You know, so I always feel badly about that. And I think also there is that obligation piece. And he also brought up, David said, you know, maybe as educators, we have sort of this feeling of like, we find so much purpose and we feel so passionate about our work and sort of like dedicated to it that when we're not there to do it, we do feel like we're missing out on something because we're choosing work that is important. And, you know, maybe there's a piece of that too. Like when you're doing work every day that's important, it feels meaningful and purposeful. Then when you're not there to do it, it does feel like something's missing. And that's what you would want. Like ultimately, and I've been struggling with that a lot this year of like not really feeling like I have my purpose, or that my work isn't really fulfilling the purpose that I would hope that it would, and been really trying to get back to that place of feeling really purposeful and valued and having a lot of impact. And so I wouldn't want to not have that. You know, I'm striving towards getting back to that place, but at the same time, you know, I think that he might be onto something there, where it's like, yeah, you are definitely thinking about having the most impact you can every day. So if you're not there to have that impact, like, are you letting people down, or are you somehow not meeting your obligations and things like that? So anyway, I'm going to stop it there. I don't know if any of this makes sense. It makes sense in my head, kind of, sort of, but I was hoping that I could get some clarity by vlogging about it, and I'm not sure that I did, but I think it was helpful to just kind of like process and get some of that out. So I'm going to keep thinking about it. I'm really excited to read through the posts this morning from BFC 530 and see what other people were talking about, and I'm sure that will help progress my thinking even more. But yeah, there's my vlog for today. Hope everybody's doing well, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.